Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Classic Gamer 74. I'm your host, Anthony Gamer, and I'm Mumford, and today we're going to be discussing edutainment games for the Colecovision. That's correct. Now, this will be the last episode in our unit about the Colecovision, as we've gone through just about every aspect of the Colecovision there is to go through. Now, we're going to have, later on, in a couple months, we're going to have an entire month dedicated to just homebrew games. Oh yeah, so and there's quite a few homebrew games that were made by the Colecovision, and still being made to this day. Right, and we're going to spend the entire month, I believe it's going to be March, isn't that right? Yeah, it's going to be March. The whole month of March we're going to dedicate to homebrews, so be looking forward to that. We're going to have homebrews for every game system, a little bit of each. And, of course, we're going to have, each episode is going to be dedicated to a particular console. But anyway, so for today we're going to be discussing the edutainment games. Now, many of you have probably heard of my book, A Guide to Edutainment Gaming, that I just released about a month or so ago. And in it I discuss some of the edutainment games that were made for various early game consoles. And the Colecovision was no exception. Now, I myself am not a real big fan of the Colecovision. I just simply don't like the controls. I never really have, especially after just getting one. However, I do have to say that the edutainment games that are on the Colecovision are second to none. There are some high quality games, edutainment games that were made for the Colecovision. And of course those are detailed in pretty good detail in my book. Oh yeah, I read it. Well, I hope you did. Oh yeah, of course I did. I was an educator myself. That's right, he was a teacher for many years, and I still am a teacher myself right now. So of course there's a special place in my heart for edutainment games. So today we're going to look at all the edutainment games that were made for the Colecovision. So, are you ready to start? Oh yeah, ready when you are. Okay, so let's look into the world of edutainment gaming on the Colecovision.
And our first game for today is Alphabet Zoo. This was released in 1984 by Spinnaker Software, and a lot of the games that you're going to see today are by Spinnaker Software, which was a small game company that made edutainment games. Now, this game is a top-down educational game where the player races around a maze collecting letters. Now, there are two objects of the game. Game one, you're needing to collect the first letter of the object's name as many times as possible in the time limit, and the second is where all the letters of the name must be collected in the correct order. A pretty cool game that teaches letter recognition and spelling. Really a fun game. And next up we have one of our rare games, and that's Amazing Bumpman. This was actually released in 1986 by Telegame, so it was actually released after the Colecovision itself was discontinued. Now, this game was only available by mail order, and it was only shipped with a cartridge and a paper manual. The contest was held to create the cover that you probably have seen floating around on the internet. In this game, you take the Bumpman and you're trying to travel around a grid and knock the numbers into the center to answer math problems. It takes a little while to get used to it, but once you get the hang of it, the game is pretty addictive and a lot of fun. Okay, the next game we have is Brain Strainers. This is from 1984 by Carousel Software. It actually has two separate games. The first one is Follow the Leader, which is kind of like Simon. You're trying to get the right colors in the right order. And the second game is called Clef Climber. What you do is you hear a note that's played and you have to match the note exactly. Can't be sharp, can't be flat, you gotta match the note exactly. Now, on more difficult settings, you can set it so that you hear the note and you just try to match it. But in the easy setting you're looking at here, they give you the note and you just have to try to match it. Pretty fun game, definitely one for people who have perfect pitch or those who think they do. And next up we have Dr. Seuss Fix Up the Mix-Up Puzzler. It's a sliding puzzle game. Now in this one you have This is basically designed for children ages 4 to 10, and you are trying to fix the puzzle. You get a picture, and then they scramble the squares, and you have to put them back up again. Now there are 5 difficulty levels to choose from, so no matter what age the kids are, or even some of us adults, yeah, you said it, we'll be able to figure the game out. Really good for visual memory and hand-eye coordination, so no matter what age you are, you're going to enjoy this game. And next, from 1983, from Spinnaker Software, we have Facemaker. In this one, children are just simply making faces. It's a good game to teach kids different parts of the face, and they can have fun making crazy faces with different colors, shapes, and sizes. And next up from Spinnaker Software, we have Fraction Fever. Now, this interesting game, you are trying to match fractions with the pogo stick. It looks easy, but trust me, it's not, but it's a whole lot of fun. Anthony, why don't you take this next game, because you sure had a lot of fun playing it. Oh, I'd be glad to. And this is Jukebox from 1984 by Spinnaker Software. Now, this game starts off kind of hard to understand, but once you get the hang of it, it's very, very addictive. And this game is like a musical strategy that's kind of a cross between chess and dance. You're hopping around, trying to keep the music going, and you're lighting up these records. You've got to create gold records. You use your dancing feet, your natural sense of rhythm to jump from square to square, creating hit records as you go. And you have to aim for the pulsating gold titles, and then you can build them into records. The more gold records you get, the more coins you earn, and the more coins you earn, the longer the music gets going. It can get pretty tough after a while because you can't jump on a square that is below the square you were on, so it can get pretty tough. But I'll tell you what, once you get the hang of it, it's a whole lot of fun for players of all ages. Now, next up, we have Learning Logic. This game was made by Fisher-Price. Many of you, of course, know that Fisher-Price is the company that makes kid toys, or toys specifically for little kids. But they tried in the early 80s to get into the video game market, and it wasn't a big success. Although, to be honest with you, these games are actually really good. Especially this one. This is Linking Logic. Now, in this game, you're trying to guide one of 2 children, Buddy or Betty, through 5 floors of the building from top to bottom. This is done by flying a bird who can place various objects, bridges, springs, walls, and ladders along the path. These are needed to prevent the child from falling through holes or changing its direction. Once the objects have been placed, the game can be started and the child will start walking. As they walk, a button has to be pressed as they pass patterned tiles. Those tiles will then be placed in spaces on the bottom floor. If a tile is missing, when the child reaches the bottom floor, the game is lost. So again, this is meant to improve children's logical reasoning and planning skills. A really underrated game, and one that is pretty collectible. Next up, we have Learning with Leaper. This was released in 1984 by the good people at Sierra Online. Many of you know them as the people that made the King's Quest games. In this game, you are trying to free prisoners on a planet's surface while avoiding the Leapers, who would leap into the air in an attempt to grab them. So what you're doing here is, in the first game, the player is being encouraged to select a series of bones that match the number of dogs on the left side. In the second, the player matches a series of items at the bottom of the screen, including letters, shapes, people, and 3-letter words with the one shown on a platform. In these first 2 games, the wrong answer will flash if a wrong one is given. In the third game, players have to make their way through a maze while they are assisted by a caterpillar. The mazes are randomly generated. Finally, the fourth one has players paint a series of pictures ranging from a house and mountains to a human figure. A really interesting game that goes on several different levels, but again, you would expect something like this from the good people at Sierra, who were gaming masters back in the 80s and 90s. All right, and next up we have Logic Levels. This is from 1984, from Fisher-Price. This game provides players with the opportunity to exercise logic and planning skills in exciting and changing ways. These skills are essential in understanding how one action causes something else to happen and learning how to use these relationships in reaching a planned outcome. In logic levels, players learn to position tools throughout the building to create a path that directs a rolling ball past numerous prizes. But only careful and creative planning will get you the highest score. Really a fun game. I had a lot of fun playing it. So did I. And you're always trying to get the ball to change colors to match up with the items you're picking up. Really a lot of fun, and definitely a game I could see parents and kids playing together and just having lots of fun. Memory Manor is probably one of the best games, in my opinion, on this list, and it also is probably one of the most collectible and expensive. In this game that was released in 1984 by Fisher-Price, you take on the role of Wee Willie, and you're a window washer, and you have to wash certain windows, but also not others. So, when it rains, Willie has to remember which windows need to be washed and which ones should be avoided. It's a pretty fun memory game, and like I said, it also is quite collectible. Of all the games on this list, this is one that's going to run you into a little bit of money. But I tell you what, though, it really is a lot of fun, and I think it's one that parents and kids alike will enjoy. And next up, we have one of my favorite games, and the one that was the picture in the intro, and that is Monkey Academy. This was released in 1984 from Konami, believe it or not, of all companies. In this game, this platform game is about solving arithmetic problems. Now, you actually have all four orders of operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, and you have 4 different levels. So this game can be played by children of all ages. Okay, in this game, you guide your monkey across the screen in up and down platform levels. Watch out for the crabs. If the claws bite you, you lose a monkey. Jump up and pull down shades to find the missing number. When you find it, match the number bar. Then send it to your helper monkey, find 3 missing numbers, and earn bonus points. So it can get pretty exciting, pretty challenging, and again, it tests your math skills. So one game I highly, highly recommend for children of all ages. Roll Overture is a very interesting game. There's really no other way to put it. In this game, you are taking on the role of the maestro, and you are trying to match notes. Now, these notes are going to come down, but you have to match them up with the correct letter note at the bottom. So you have 7 levers, you have 7 levers positioned over the note maker slots that you control. So you're trying to change the settings, jump over those rolling balls, and there's just a lot going on at once. And again, this one here teaches children about problem solving, about identifying musical notes and stuff like that. It can really get them, those that are interested in music, this is a good step in the right direction. This game also is a little on the rare and valuable side, as it was released by Sunrise Software. That was the company that made the famous game Quest for Quintana Roo. And just like that game, it's quite a challenge. And next up, from 1984, we have Smurf Paint and Play Workshop. In this game, you are basically making things. The game is designed for children from ages 4 to 8, and it lets children play, paint, and place objects on the screen. In addition, it allowed children to create plays and make animations. Various objects that players can manipulate include shapes, letters, and numbers, depending on the narrative. So again, really encouraging children to be creative and make their own Smurf cartoons. If you were around back in the 80s, the Smurfs were extremely popular, and Coleco was able to get the licensing, and they made that really cool game, Smurf Rescue in Gargamel's Castle. There was plans to have another Smurf game that we discussed on our Lost Media episode, but as far as I know, it's never been found, and I don't think even any homebrew programmers have made it. So anyway, I think the kids and any Smurf fans will really enjoy this game. Now, if you grew up in the 80s like I did, more than likely in your computer classes, you had to use Logo. Now, Logo was a fun program, and you could do all kinds of cool stuff with it. Make music videos, even short games. There was all kinds of fun stuff. And of course, it was something that was in the curriculum for children that took computer classes. I know in middle school and high school, we learned how to use it and did all kinds of fun stuff with it. Well, that was also extended to the Colecovision, as they had their own version called TeleTurtle. Much like in the logo that you used in school, probably on your Apple IIe computers, you can do the same things as you could there. You could make shapes, colors, music videos, all kinds of fun stuff. I think this is something that a lot of us that grew up during that time period look back on with a lot of fun, fond memories, and it's something you could share with your own children or grandchildren.
Now this game I add last because this is probably the most valuable and rarest edutainment game ever made. Oh yeah, tell you what, it's a great game, but oh boy, it's really collectible and expensive. Right, now I detailed this game a little bit on my rare and valuable ColecoVision games, but we're going to talk about it as the game itself, not looking at it from a collectible perspective. Although if you would like to add this to your ColecoVision library, it's going to cost you a little bit. And that game is Wizard of Id Math.
Okay, Wizard of Id's Wiz Math. Now, many of you are familiar with the comic strip Wizard of Id. It ran for several years in the Sunday in the papers. I think it's still running. I'm not exactly sure. I don't have a subscription to a newspaper anymore. But anyway, Wizard of Id's Wiz Math is an educational game to teach mathematics. Using your joystick, you must move blocks into place so they complete a correct math problem and answer. If you push against a block, it will send it flying until it hits a wall or another block. You can also face a block and hold down the button. While keeping the button down, you can then slide the block as needed. There is a 60-second time limit, and you are being pursued by a turnkey. Early levels require only one math problem to exit, but later levels require two or more. Early in the game, you can select a floor on an elevator. The higher the floor, the more difficult the math problems. The game also asks your age. The older you say you are, the higher floor it tries to start you on, although you can select a lower floor. The problems get really difficult after a while, and sometimes you run into some algebraic expressions, so this is a game for people of all ages, to be honest with you. Oh yeah, but it is quite collectible. As of now, December 2022, a loose card alone will run you around $239, and actually, if you were able to find it in the package, or so complete in the box, it's about $723, and if you were able to find it completely sealed, unopened, it'll run you around, how much is that? $1,400. So this is a really cool game, but to be honest with you, I don't think you should spend that much money on the game itself. Now, if you have an emulator or a multi-card, it's definitely one to check out, because this is a game of pretty high educational value along with its pretty high price tag. In our next episode, we're going to discuss some of my favorite Flash games.
Well, that brings this episode of Classic Gamer 74 to a close. I really hope you all enjoyed it. Oh, I sure did. I learned a lot. You did? Oh, yeah. You helped me write the episode. Oh, yeah. I did? Yeah, you did. Oh, okay. Anyway, we really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, let us know by smashing that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to click that little bell icon down there so you'll be notified when we upload new episodes. Connect with us on all our social media platforms, and please support us on Patreon. We got some really cool stuff that we're adding on Patreon all the time that you can't see anywhere else. So please be generous and help us out on Patreon. It doesn't matter what level of support you give us, you'll have access to all the stuff on there. So please be generous and help us out on Patreon. It'd be greatly appreciated. Well, until next time, I'm Anthony Gamer, and I'm Mumford, and we will see you all in the next episode. Until that time, be strong, be safe, be happy, be healthy, and above all, take care of each other, be kind to each other, and stop hate of all kinds. See you guys soon. Bye. Bye, everyone.